The government's decision to abolish the mandatory death penalty is a significant step towards a fairer criminal justice system. That's according to constitutional lawyer Sin Yew, explaining how the new move will assist people on death rows, but with mitigating factors.
The current problem with the mandatory death penalty is that it removes all forms of discretion from the courts when it comes to sentencing. So as far as criminal justice is concerned, the courts are not able to take into account certain what we call mitigating factors. So for example, if a individual has very low IQ, 69 for example, as we saw in Nagendran's case, that person, despite being of low IQ, and courts would consider that as being a mitigating factor, is not able to take into account that as a mitigating factor and have to sentence somebody to death, that would now change. The criminal justice system would become more a fairer system. The sentences that are being met out would be more proportionate. Not everyone who has mitigating factors would be sentenced to death anymore. So what we have here, we are seeing the start of a fairer system, a more humane system that doesn't remove or doesn't tie the judge's hands.
The government will also review other reforms to the criminal justice system, including the establishment of a sentencing council and a law commission. Sin Yew said this would be necessary as the next step once the mandatory death penalty is abolished.
What will happen next, I think, is that there will be a sentencing council. They'll look into establishing a sentencing council, because once you abolish the mandatory death penalty, you need to look at what do you do with those who are currently sentenced to death. You need to replace it with an alternative punishment. So I suppose that sentencing council or committee, which I suspect will be helmed by judges, or its members would consist of federal court judges, ex-federal court judges perhaps. They will look into what new sentences to be imposed on those who are undergoing the death penalty. But of course, even before that, legislative change needs to happen. The law needs to be changed, and all the 11 mandatory death penalty offences, which I think 9 of them are in the penal code and 2 of them are in firearms related, that needs to be amended. And I think there will be a new law to deal with what do we do with those who are undergoing the death penalty at this moment, and those who have been sentenced under laws which carried the mandatory death penalty.